Mike and Rodney, and happy halftime, guys. The season is halfway done. I mean, some folks didn't think we'd be playing football in November, and we've gotten this far, which is a full credit to everybody behind the scenes and the players and coaches, too, are making a bunch of sacrifices. And we keep diving into what's going on the field. And Mike Florio, I'll let you hit this off because San Francisco, Green Bay is the Thursday night game. Green Bay, COVID impacted in a couple of places. But first to San Francisco. The 49ers, the NFC champs, Jimmy Garoppolo out for a stretch now, George Kittle out for a stretch. All of a sudden, in a difficult division, this is looking like a very uphill climb for the champs of the NFC to get back in the tournament.
Well, it absolutely is. And to throw on top of that pile, Mike, the 49ers are shut down on Wednesday because they have a COVID-19 positive result coming from Tuesday when they had a full work day, which means there would be potential close contacts with Kendrick Bourne, reportedly the guy who tested positive. There may be other players who suddenly are unavailable for Thursday night's game, if that game even happens. So just another hardship for the 49ers who can't catch a break this year, whether it's injuries, now COVID-19, not having key players, and still somehow 4-4.
Tony, Rodney, what is it about trying to repeat in the NFC? Get back to the Super Bowl when you lose it.
It is tough. It's tough to repeat if you win it. But if you lose it, then you've got that disappointment. On top of that, you have a feeling, do we need to make changes? Do we just stick with what we've done? Everybody's still gunning for you. You get the tough schedules. It becomes really, really difficult. And I never had to face it, losing a Super Bowl. But even when you win one, it's a difficult year that next year.
Yeah, and the good thing for Kyle Shanahan, he's gone through this early in the season. And he knows how to deal with it. He has a lot of confidence in his guys. The younger guys had an opportunity to come and get that valuable playing experience. So, I mean, who's been better this year at dealing with injuries and adversity than Kyle Shanahan? So we just got to sit back and wait. But the best thing for them to do is continue to try to run the football, try to stop the run, play good defense, create turnovers, and just try to do something positive to help that offense out.
And Mike gave us the what if with the matchup. Go ahead, Tony. You go ahead.
I started to mention that earlier. I talked to John Lynch after week 3, and he said Kyle Shanahan had done a phenomenal job of not letting the guys have excuses, of saying, this is who we got. We're still going to do what we do. We're still going to win, and building that into what the players were thinking. Now, this is a severe test. Now, you lose probably your best player on offense. You lose your quarterback. You've still got guys like Deebo Samuel who aren't 100% yet. So Kyle's going to be tested. But I think John really was just really praising Kyle for that mindset of we're not going to have excuses.
Guys, they lost at the front end of the season on the defensive side, Bosa as well as others. Rodney, Green Bay is on the other side of this game if it happens on Thursday night. And let's talk about the NFC North here for a second, because Green Bay looked good early on. Chicago had moments where although the record was really good, people questioned it, but they were still sitting there as a 5-win team. Now, after you've watched a couple of weeks of those teams not play as well, what is your concern level with both Green Bay and Chicago, the teams at the top of the NFC North?
I'm going to focus on Green Bay. We've talked enough about Chicago. And my biggest focus, and I got a chance to go back this morning when I woke up and watch that film, and it was the defense. And the thing that really was disturbing, with all that talent that they got, all the money that they invested on the defensive side, those guys didn't give great effort. And you see Preston Smith, he's getting blocked by Irv Smith, a pass receiving tight end. He's not getting off any blocks. Nose tackle Kenny Smith, he's getting double teamed. He's getting blown off the ball. The safeties can't tackle. It was just really disturbing. If you guys get a chance, go back and watch the effort level of the defense. It almost seems like, Coach, at times they sit back and they know they have an explosive offense and they wait on Aaron Rodgers and to get up by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And these guys on defense, they're not focused on stopping the run. They want sacks. They want to get after the quarterback. And to me, you got to stop the run first in order to put yourself in a position to set up, your ability to rush the passer and get those sacks, Coach.
Well, they've been fortunate because they've been ahead so much, and that has allowed them just to play pass defense. Well, you're going to get in big games. You're going to play against good teams. You aren't going to be ahead, and you are going to have to stop the run, and they have not done that real well. And then you flip over to Chicago. Their problems are on the other side of the ball. Their offense has not been consistent at all. And, you might – have a good record in the division, and you might be okay. You're not going to be successful in the playoffs being a one-dimensional team. Chicago's got to get their offense playing better. Green Bay's got to get their defense playing better.
And the thing that was alarming about Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers said after the game that the team lacked energy. And he's said that in the past, and he doesn't say anything accidentally. And I just wonder who it is that's supposed to supply that impetus, that kick, that motivation so guys have energy. Who's supposed to be paying attention prior to the game, in the locker room, on the field, wherever, to turn that around if that's happening? And that's alarming if that's something that we're going to see from the Packers, especially because they've lost 2 out of the last 3, and they didn't have a lot of energy when they lost in Tampa Bay a few weeks ago.
Florio, hold on, Mike. Hold on. It's the leader. It's those guys in the locker room, man. You can't. I can't sit here and expect Coach Dungy to pump me up to go out on the football field and go play. It comes from within. You know, they know what position they're in. They know that they have a really good team, but they're not good enough just to show up. They got to make sure that they're completely into it, that they bring full effort all the time. So I look at the Smith brothers. You paid them a heck of a whole lot of money. Adrian Amos, the free safety. I look at all these guys. You got veteran guys on Kenny Clark. You paid him a lot of money, and you have to expect these guys to come out and play every single week. So, Mike Florio, I would tell you the veterans in that locker room, that's who you expect to come out and speak up and bring that energy every week.
And let me ask this question. As a guy who has become a full-fledged member of the Aaron Rodgers fan club this year, what's his role? Even if it's a defensive issue. Is it his role, too, to like Peyton Manning would do and Tom Brady would do?
I promise you, you would not get that quote from the Colts when I was there. We didn't have energy. Peyton Manning would not allow that. And Rodney, I'm sure Tom was the same way.
Yeah, but the way we looked at it is, Tom, you take care of the offense. We're going to handle the defense. Yeah. Coach, you handle the special teams. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, you know, Aaron Rodgers, a lot of times you listen to what he says, and a lot of times there's hidden messages, there's a level of sarcasm and things like that. But if I was on the Green Bay Packers, I'd say, Aaron, you don't have to talk about the defense. I'll make sure that the defense brings energy. You just make sure that the offense steps up and brings the same energy.
One last Green Bay point. Mike, were you surprised that they didn't pull the trigger on the trade for Fuller from Houston?
I wasn't surprised because you're taking on the remainder of an 8-figure salary for a guy who's had plenty of injuries, and you know you're basically trying to change a tire on a moving car when you pick up a receiver and jam him into a new offense. Look at what happened last year. Now, Emmanuel Sanders helped the 49ers, but they gave up a 3rd-round pick. He walked away in free agency. The Patriots gave up a 2nd-rounder for Mohamed Sanu. That didn't work out. I don't know what the Texans were looking for Will Fuller, but the market, if it was set last year, maybe they wanted, I can't imagine they want a 1st-round pick for him. But I wasn't surprised they didn't do it because, and at another level, too, you're kind of acknowledging if you make the play for Fuller that maybe you should have used some of your draft assets on a receiver back in April and not be playing this game to try to make your receiving core better on the fly. I think that probably was another reason why the Packers hesitated.
And the thing people don't understand, it isn't like baseball. You just come in and play second base or you come in and play right field. You got to develop a chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. How long is that going to take for Will Fuller? So maybe you're hoping that, hey, by the time we get to the playoffs, he's ready to go. I just think that's a lot to ask, a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and then the guy might not even be there next year.
And if you're the Packers, why would you go after a guy that has a history of injuries, a history of not being on a football field? I don't get it. I mean, if I'm going to target a guy, I'm going to target a guy maybe like Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears. I know he's in the same division, but I'm not going to target a guy that I know he's explosive, I know he's fast, and he can do some things, but you got to cross your fingers every week to see if this guy has a pulled hamstring or groin or something like that. I wouldn't touch Will Fuller if I was a team.
So there you have receiver issues in the depth and the veterans there. New Orleans has gone a couple of weeks, guys, here without Emmanuel Sanders, who Mike just mentioned. Michael Thomas has played 1 game. Guy who caught 149 balls last year has barely been a part of it. Yet here are the Saints at the top of the division. And on Sunday Night Football, we'll have Drew Brees and Tom Brady. We'll have the Saints and the Buccaneers. Top line thought on that game. Rodney, I'll get you in here first.
Well, just some of the matchups. You got Malcolm Jenkins versus Gronk. I think that's going to be very interesting. You got these fast, athletic linebackers of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and defending Alvin Kamara in open space, Drew Brees. You know, how is he going to deal with Tampa Bay and the pressure and all the different things? So for me, I'm looking at all the different matchups across the board. I think it's going to be great, Coach.
Yeah, and I look at what the Saints have been able to do, and it's amazing. They played really well that first game against Tampa. They had all their weaponry there. They haven't had it since, and they're still winning. And they've got to feel like, well, if we can get Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders back, we're going to reach another level. But they're going to need that against Tampa. They're not going to beat Tampa if they don't have all their machinery in place.
I was intrigued by Mike Evans' comments to Lisa Salters of ESPN after the Monday night win over the Giants. He said that Antonio Brown hopefully will take away some of the double teams from Mike Evans, which concedes at a certain level that maybe Antonio Brown's the better receiver that would attract that attention away from Evans. But Evans hasn't done much this year, not nearly as much as I thought he would do with a quarterback like Tom Brady. But if you put Brown on the field with Evans and Gronk, who's coming along, what are the Saints going to do to slow down that offense? And it may end up being a 41-38 shootout, and whoever has the ball last wins.
Hey, Mike, so, Florio, are you thinking, so you're automatically assuming that Antonio Brown is going to be on the level that he was a couple years ago?
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think that...
Tom Brady didn't engineer this whole thing, Rodney, just because he likes the guy. Tom Brady knows what he's dealing with. He saw it for a couple of weeks last year in New England, and he hasn't let go of it because I think he saw in Antonio Brown something that maybe he hasn't seen since Randy Moss.
I know that, and all I'm saying is, you know, a guy hasn't played football, and he's not going to be looked at as coming in and have to be the number one guy. I just think it's going to take some time, Coach. I mean, you know better than me. You've coached, you know, some of the greatest wide receivers to ever play. I just think it's going to take a little time for him to come in, learn the offense, get acclimated, and know where his fit is. We saw Rob Gronkowski, and we saw them struggle earlier with some continuity because they didn't have the training camp. So I don't think Antonio Brown is just going to come in right away and just be successful because he's Tom's teammate.
Yeah, as you guys know, I live in Tampa, and when Tom came, a ton of hype. Oh, our offense is going to be great and we're going to be on fire. And you had the COVID situation, and he's taken all those receivers to Berkeley High School, and they're working out every single day. But it's not the same thing. And we went 4 or 5 weeks. Oh, has Tom Brady lost it? Has Gronk lost it? He doesn't seem to have chemistry with Mike Evans. They're misfiring. What's happening? Yep. Well, now it looks pretty good. It looks very good, as a matter of fact. But I think Antonio is going to have that same situation. Hey, yeah, I run routes, and I may be fast, and I may be able to run 4.3 today. But I haven't run these routes with Tom Brady. He doesn't know how I'm going to come out the break when I get jammed. When the guys, when I read cover 2, how am I going to break this off? Where am I going to go? And that, to me, is what has always made Tom great, that anticipation, that timing. That's going to have to develop.
And that's Godwin, coming from one of the greatest coaches of all time. Yeah. Thank you, Coach.
Godwin, Evans.
He says that when
Miller
he agrees
there,
with you, Coach. You notice that?
Yeah, exactly. He goes back to that card. How they can line up on the field if Antonio Brown works out will be such a problem. And then, by the way, you get spread out. You take Gronk, you detach him. You go with the 4 wides, which you could when Godwin, Evans are healthy, Miller, and Antonio Brown, right? And then you have a light box for Leonard Fournette. And go deal with that and pound your head into that. They could, Tony, have as many options as anybody going into the second half of the year.
If Antonio Brown plays well and they do develop that chemistry, the only way you're going to be able to handle them is to be able to create tremendous pressure with a 4-man rush. If you can't pressure with 4-man, if you have to blitz and cover all those guys one-on-one, Tom is going to pick that apart. If you can't pressure and you say, well, I'm just going to cover, and Tom, we've seen him just be just precise up and down the field. So it's going to be a team that can rush with 4 guys, create pressure, and still mix the coverages. And there aren't many of those teams out there.
And Florio, here we are talking about Good, Rod.
No, I was just sitting here thinking, like, are we overrating Tampa Bay? I mean, we get so caught up and inundated with, like, all the weapons that they have, but are we truly overrating them? Because you saw them against Chicago. We saw some weaknesses there. We saw them against the Giants. And it just depends on how you look at it. Well, they overcame this, they overcame that to win, or sometimes they play down to the level of competition. So, but I look at, once again, I know Tom Brady. I've been knowing Tom Brady for 17 years, and I've been watching him play for 17 years. And once again, when you make him uncomfortable, you're right, Coach, if you are able to rush him with 4 guys and make him uncomfortable, Tom turns into a completely different quarterback. So I'm really excited to see if he can handle pressure from the front 4 that you were talking about.
So, Rodney, I'll challenge your point with this. Other than Seattle, who else in the NFC would you be willing to wager a milkshake on?
Saints, Seattle.
Yeah. And I don't mean that to challenge you. Yeah, I don't mean that to challenge you. I'm just elevating the point here. There are not complete teams right now, right? This is an odd year. It's a different year. So you stop and you look at it, and these may be, along with Seattle, the 3 best teams in the NFC, built now for the second half. They've survived the first part of this. They're in position to do that. They have a chance to continue to ascend and get better. And there's a big if with Antonio Brown. I understand that. So I hear your point. I just think that all of a sudden the Bucs have elevated themselves because they're 6-2 into this level of conversation.
Mike, they're 6-2, but they still have 8 more games to go. And the biggest deal dealing with the Bucs is their health. And that was one of the reasons when they went out and got Antonio Brown, Coach, and we did this show, the last thing I said is they're getting depth at the wide receiver spot because those wide receivers are always injured. Now, Gronk has been great the first 8 games of the season because he's been healthy. I don't know if I can count on Gronk to be healthy the next 8 weeks of the season, the next 2 months of the season. Then you have playoffs and all those different things. So I don't know how much I would bet that these guys stay healthy, and that's a big part of if they're going to have success or not, Mike Florio.
Yeah.
I think that applies to every team, though. But the Buccaneers may be more susceptible to it than others. I'll agree with you there because of the history of the injuries. Can they get through the next 8 games and ride into January with a full complement of healthy guys? We'll see.
And an injury not many people are talking about is Vita Vea. To me, that's made a huge difference. They were stuffing the run, getting everybody in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, and then Todd Bowles can dial up all of these intricate blitzes. Well, now if you're able to run the ball on 1st down and make 5 yards and you're throwing in running situations and throwing against base defense, the Giants showed that was different. Daniel Jones, if he could have hit some plays, they had a 35 or 40-point game out there. And a lot of it goes back to Tampa not being as stout against the run now.
Hint, hint, high-scoring game. And with respect to the great Denny Green, Rodney, I wasn't trying to crown him. Not at this point, but I think we're just kind of pivoting to what we're going to look at here in the second half of the season. Guys, one last one here, just a quick lap around on this. You know, you look at games and how the week lays out. Seattle going to Buffalo, intriguing game. That'll be fun to watch. Buffalo has come back a little bit in our eyes. Seattle continues to play well. They travel east. They travel east well. Pittsburgh-Dallas was that feature game. Man, that's going to be great in November, and we know what Dallas's deal is, and we know what Pittsburgh's deal is. So I'm going to ask you for one thought on this game. Miami at Arizona, which all of a sudden has become, Tony, a very intriguing game, in part because of the quarterbacks on the marquee, but the teams have been performing at a pretty good level the first half of the season on both sides of this one.
They really have. Young, aggressive team. And watch Brian Flores in that Miami defense. Kyler Murray has been running around, scrambling, moving around, getting the ball to different people. Watch Brian Flores come after him with a lot of different blitzes like he did last week. And Kyler Murray is going to have to handle the pressure, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at Tua and just seeing if they're going to allow him to maybe open up a little bit more. I mean, last week he didn't have to do very much. He had, I think, threw 1 touchdown pass. His defense played outstanding. But will they just be conservative, patient with him, or will they allow him to kind of open up the offense? And the second thing I'm looking for is when he gets hit, just how his feeling is once he gets hit. Like last week he got hit, he kind of jumped up and shook off his shoulders, and it felt good that he didn't get injured again. So that should build some confidence as well.
I'll tell you what my thought is. The Dolphins are going to realize pretty quickly there's a fundamental difference between Jared Goff and Kyler Murray. I think Murray's one of the most exciting players I've ever seen between the speed, the agility, and the awareness. He never gets hit squarely. He almost never gets hit at all. He'll slide sideways when he sees trouble coming. He never gives in to that temptation to take on a defensive back because he's smart enough to know he would lose. But the way he darts through traffic, I don't know that the Dolphins are going to be able to handle him. And that's why I think the Cardinals, given that they've beaten the Seahawks and they get to play them again, I think the Cardinals are a team we need to take seriously as a potential NFC West champion if they can take care of the games like this one where, hey, if they could beat the Seahawks, they should be able to hold their own against the Dolphins.
Just remember, Mike, they lost to the Lions.
Well, I know. And they shouldn't have. And they lost to the Panthers, and they shouldn't have. So maybe they learned from that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Lions set a tone for the big story of the week is that you can have a big lead in Michigan and things can change. On that note, we will say goodbye.
Yeah.
Have a good week.
That's some shade. That is some shade.
I'm just reporting facts. It's just the Lions continue to get leads. We sit in the viewing room. What do I say, Tony, every week? What time will the Lions have a double-digit lead? We'll set the over-under at 1:30. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you this Sunday Football Night in America at 7 Eastern on NBC. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.